Welcome back all the aspirants. I hope you're doing amazing. After completing Volume 1, we are now stepping into Volume 2, Elizabethan to Jacobean Literature. Excited? I'm sure you are. Now, let me quickly set the stage. Today we are opening Chapter 6, Elizabethan Literature. And just so you remember, this chapter is divided neatly into two parts, Elizabethan Poetry and Elizabethan Drama. For today's session, our focus will be on poetry, and more specifically, we're kicking things off with blank verse. Before we dive in, here's a small reminder. We've already shared with you the last-minute revision notes on both Elizabethan poetry and drama, and yes, over 100 previous year questions are waiting there for you. So, whenever you want to cross-check or revise quickly, you know exactly where to look. And one more important note for clarity: when we reach Philip Sidney, we'll be covering all his works except an apology for poetry. Why? Because we've already studied it thoroughly in our literary criticism section. If you want to revisit that, just go to the Elizabethan criticism chapter in the resources. You'll find everything there, PDFs, last-minute revision, notes, and even PYQs all in one place. So, no repetition, only fresh content here. Now, like always, before we start naming poets, we first look at the trends, techniques, and rhetoric that were shaping the literary landscape of this age. What was in fashion? What devices were the poets playing with? Because once you know the tools, understanding the works becomes so much easier. And that's why we begin today with one of the most powerful poetic techniques of the Elizabethan period, blank verse. Alright, at its core, blank verse is poetry with a steady rhythm but no rhyme. Think of it like music that keeps a strong beat, but the lines don't end with rhyming words. Now, the heartbeat of blank verse is iambic pentameter. This quite frequently asked question in your exam. That's a fancy way of saying each line has 10 syllables divided into 5 pairs, unstressed, followed by stressed. So it sounds like da-dum, 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 da-dum. 5 times means penta. Can you hear that steady rhythm? That's what gives blank verse its natural, almost conversational flow. Pause here and notice the first time blank verse appeared in English was with Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. Again asked in exam, around 1540 he used it while translating Virgil's Aeneid. That's the starting point. From there, it quickly moved on to the stage. Gorboduc in 1561 was the very first English play written in blank verse, and later Arden of Aversham around 1590 showed how neat and clear this style could be. But here's the golden moment: Christopher Marlowe. His plays gave blank verse power, energy, and dramatic brilliance, earning it the nickname Marlowe's Mighty Line. Of course, when you think of blank verse, one name towers above the rest: William Shakespeare. Almost all his plays are written in it, giving his characters a natural yet elevated voice. And then comes John Milton, who used blank verse to write his epic masterpiece Paradise Lost. Just imagine an entire epic poem in unrhymed iambic pentameter. Even after Milton, blank verse stayed strong. In the 18th century, poets like James Thomson and William Cowper carried it forward. The Romantics Wordsworth, Shelley, and Keats embraced it too, finding in it the perfect blend of freedom and form. Later, in the 19th century, Alfred Lord Tennyson used blank verse in works like The Princess and Ulysses, giving it Victorian grandeur. And here's something interesting across the Atlantic. American poets like Hart Crane and Wallace Stevens used blank verse even when free verse had become fashionable. They proved that the form still had life and adaptability. So to sum up for exams, remember these checkpoints. Blank verse equals unrhymed iambic pentameter, first used in English by Surrey, Gorboduc, and Arden of Faversham as early plays. Marlowe popularized it. Shakespeare mastered it. Milton immortalized it. And later poets, from the Romantics to Tennyson to even American modernists, kept it alive. Let's talk about something that often pops up in exams, the Shakespearean sonnet. You can think of it as a compact little poem, just 14 lines long, but packed with beauty, rhythm, and often a surprising twist. Yes, 14 lines always. That's rule number 1, and it has been asked in exam. Now, how are those lines written? Each one follows a heartbeat rhythm called iambic pentameter, 10 syllables per line, alternating soft and strong stresses. The rhyme scheme is also special. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, then G, G, 3 quatrains followed by a rhyming couplet. Again, this structure is a favorite exam question. So how does it work? The first 12 lines are divided into 3 quatrains, each explores part of the main idea. Then comes the couplet, the final 2 lines, which usually deliver a punchy conclusion or even a twist. Now, let's take Sonnet 18, Shakespeare's most famous one. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? In the first quatrain, the poet wonders about the comparison. In the second quatrain, he points out summer's flaws, too hot, too short. In the third quatrain, he promises that the beloved's beauty won't fade. And then the couplet, the knockout ending, he declares that as long as people read these lines, the person's beauty will live on forever. Notice the themes here: love, beauty, time, and mortality. Shakespeare often circled around these big questions of life and art. So when you think Shakespearean sonnet, remember the exam checklist: 14 lines, iambic pentameter, the rhyme scheme, 3 quatrains plus a couplet, and themes of love, time, and mortality. Let's talk about a sonnet form that often pops up in exams, the Petrarchan sonnet, named after the Italian poet Francesco Petrarch. Like the Shakespearean sonnet, it has 14 lines, yes, 14 lines exactly, asked in exam. But its structure and rhyme scheme make it unique. Here's how it works. The Petrarchan sonnet is written in iambic pentameter, that's 10 syllables per line. Now the big difference is its division into 2 parts. It was asked in exam. The first 8 lines form the octave and the last 6 lines form the sestet. Pause here and remember, this split is very important for your exam. Now let's look at the rhyme scheme. The octave almost always follows A, B, B, A, B, B, A. The sestet is more flexible. It might be C, D, E, or C, D, C, D. But here's the trick. It never mirrors the rhyme scheme of the octave. That separation is deliberate, marking a structural and thematic shift. And that shift is called the volta, and this exact term was asked in exam. The volta usually happens at line 9, right where the sestet begins. This is the turn of the poem when the mood, tone, or argument changes. The octave might set up a problem or question, while the sestet provides a solution, reflection, or emotional release. Now, what themes do we usually find? Love, beauty, unrequited love, and the joys and sorrows of desire. Petrarch often wrote about his muse Laura, weaving pain and longing into elevated poetry. Let me give you a famous example, Petrarch's Sonnet 90. In the octave, he describes the woman's beauty, her golden hair, her radiant eyes. But then, at line 9, the volta shifts the focus, no longer just her beauty, but the lasting emotional effect it has on him. The sestet reflects on how her presence, even in memory, continues to move and haunt him. Alright, here's a form you absolutely cannot afford to miss for your exam, the Spenserian stanza. Yes, this has been asked in exam, so give it your full attention. First, the structure. Each stanza has 9 lines. It was asked in exam. The first 8 lines are written in iambic pentameter, meaning 10 syllables per line again, asked in exam. And then comes the jewel, the 9th line, a longer iambic hexameter with 12 syllables, also called an Alexandrine, and this was also asked in exam. That final line slows the rhythm, providing weight and closure. Now, what about the rhyme scheme? Here's the pattern to note carefully. AB, BC, BC, and Alexandrine C. Again asked in exam. It's interlocking, it's complex, and it creates a rolling musical quality that carries the stanza forward while still tying it neatly at the end. Let's see it in action. Take these opening lines from Spenser's The Faerie Queene. Here is the original script, which will give a clear sound and pattern. I'm going to read as it island. Just focus on the sound, not spelling. A gentle knight was pricking on the plain, y-clad in mighty armies and silver shield they, wherein all dints of deep wounds did remain, the cruel markers of many a bloody field. Yet armour till that time did he never wield. His angry steed did chide his foaming bit, as much disdaining to the curb to yield. Full jolly knight he seemed, and fair did sit, as one for knightly juiced and fierce encounters fit. Notice how the final Alexandrine, as one for knightly juiced and fierce encounters fit, draws the stanza to a dignified close. So, how do we sum this up for exam recall? 9 lines. First 8 in iambic pentameter. 9th is an Alexandrine iambic hexameter. Rhyme scheme. All of these have been asked in exam. This stanza form gives both movement and elegance. In the Faerie Queene, Spenser used it for action scenes as well as moments of reflection, blending narrative drive with lyrical beauty.